Welcome back, everybody. Today was full of activities, mentorship sessions, productive time, and I hope that delicious food as well. And now I would like to move to the part where you will hear the lecture about pitching, and the lecture on the topic how to pitch will be delivered by Andra Bagdonaitė. Andra is the representative of the venture capital startup Wise Guys, and she works there as associate and managing director. As far as I know, and as far as I know Andra, her lectures are very useful for participants because it is based on practical experience and practical advices. So listen carefully, take everything in mind, and I just want to remind you that you are able to provide questions for Andra. You will find the link on the Zoom platform to the Slido platform. So write questions there, and after Andra presentation, I will read it loudly and pass it to Andra. And now I would like to give my word to Andra, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vaida, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and really kudos to everyone who has decided to spend this weekend building something that might be helpful given the current situation and what is happening in the world right now. So today, I'll tell you a little bit more about pitching and how to pitch effectively. This is a topic that we are teaching our startups at Startup Wise Guys very extensively, because pitching is not only about, getting on stage, getting on a virtual stage and presenting yourself when you hope to win some sort of competition or a hackathon. It's more about having clarity in the way you present your business idea or your business in general. And when we present something with clarity and conviction, typically we have higher chances of being heard. So I hope that today you'll learn something new that you can apply to your final pitches that will be happening tomorrow. Now, I will not go too much into detail, but want to start by presenting myself a little bit. I call myself a management consultant turned VC. I started my career in the European Parliament and management consultancy companies Civita and Startup Division, after which I have transitioned to Startup Wise Guys, where I'm helping startups to raise funds, bring products to the market, and in general, build successful businesses. If you want to connect with me after this session, please feel free to do so. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you on LinkedIn or email. Just please let me know that this is where we have met. Now, when it comes to Startup Wise Guys, also just a couple of words so that you're aware why am I talking about pitching and where does the experience come from. So we are on a mission of helping founders become entrepreneurs and build great international tech companies. Startup Wise Guys has more than 250 startups in their portfolio. And here in Lithuania, we have invested in about 50 companies. So some of them that you might know include Ondato, Kevin, Waterlook, GoRamp, Deserve, and of course, Turing College. We're very happy that they are working together with us and are a part of our portfolio. Now, today I will be talking mostly about three things. I will begin with the pitch basics, helping you understand what a pitch is and what are the main components of it. Then I will dive deeper into the pitch outline, meaning, what are the different sections that should be included, what's the information that you should present there, and how to present it effectively. And I'll wrap up today's workshop with presentation tips, so just some small tricks that can help you stand out amongst other startups. And in terms of questions, I believe Vaida has shared the link. So if you want to ask something, please don't hesitate. Or if you want to ask something in private, you can also just text me after this presentation. So let's begin. What is a pitch deck and what are the main principles? Now, when it comes to pitches in the startup world, they're typically split into three categories: the elevator pitch, the stage pitch, and the investor deck. The elevator pitch is something that you use in daily situations. When you meet someone, for example, you meet a mentor during this weekend, and you have to very quickly tell them what is your idea and what is it that you are working on. So typically, you don't have slides or anything. You just tell your idea in a couple of sentences. Now, the second category is the stage pitch, and this is what we will be focusing on today. So the stage pitch typically is about 3 to 5 minutes long and already has slides, and it is used in competitions, demo days, conferences, hackathons, with the goal to capture interest or perhaps win the competition. In that case, you already have more data, you present more information, and you basically go much deeper than in the elevator pitch. Now, something that also exists and that you might need in the future is in the investor deck. So this is a standalone document that startups typically send to investors when they want to start a conversation. So there, you have much more data, you have a lot of graphs, visuals, tables that basically outline your business in a self-explanatory kind of way. But today is about the stage pitch, the one that you will be preparing for tomorrow. And let's just quickly take a look at it again. So the stage pitch is delivered during online or on-site events to an audience that typically has no prior information about your company. It tells your business story in very simple human terms so that anyone could understand what is it that you're building, and typically has about 10 to 12 slides that contain only very basic information. You will not have too much time, so you need to make sure that the information is clear, condensed, and concise. Now, the main elements of the stage pitch is that it's short, so you will run out of time very quickly, and therefore you need to think very carefully what is it that you want to say. The stage pitch should also be compelling. So, if you want to win the competition, you have to convince your audience that you have the best idea that has the biggest potential. Stage pitch is also typically very visual. It has a lot of graphical elements because people remember and understand better when they hear and see something at the same time. And of course, the stage pitch does not have too much data. So you should only include the crucial information that would help you to tell your business story in an effective way. Now, in your case, you will have 3 minutes for the pitch and 2 minutes for the Q&A. So the Q&A, can either break or make your pitch, because this will be the part where you will be able to clarify some of the things that you did not have time to go through during the pitch. So when you will be preparing, also think carefully, what are some of the questions that you might be receiving during the Q&A session? Also, I'm not sure if you have seen this already, but this is the evaluation criteria that you will be evaluated on tomorrow. So, the evaluation criteria usually differs from event to event, and therefore it's important to take a look at it when you are preparing for your presentation. So you will be evaluated on 6 key criteria. The first one being originality, if this is something new. Your execution, so what have you done so far? The usefulness, is it practical? Is it something that's needed? Your presentation, how well can you present yourself? And this is something that I'm teaching you about. Then the learning, so what have you learned? And how your previous experience complements it. And the topic relevant. So, in general, is this something that's important? And do you cover the topics of the hack? So please keep these things in mind when you will be preparing the pitch, because you might want to stress some parts to make sure that you meet the evaluation criteria. So this is it. I think that now we are on the same page. Some of these things were very basic, but I just wanted to cover them to make sure that, we all know where we stand, and now we can dive deeper into the content and really try to see, okay, so what is the typical outline of a stage pitch and what does it include? So the typical outline of a pitch includes the following topics. So you have about 10 to 12 slides, and you should cover these 11 things more or less. So you usually start with a title slide and a hook. This is something that you begin the presentation with, and you hook the audience in the first 15 seconds or so. Then you move into the problem and solution part. So you should explain what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and this should be clearly linked with the hack also. And what is the solution that you have built or that you want to build? Basically, what is the product or the service? After this, we move into topics that are more related to the business part of your idea. So what is the potential market size? What does the competitive landscape look like? What could be your business model, and how could you monetize to make your idea self-sustainable? What is the go-to-market strategy, or basically what would be the next steps for you to bring this product to life? And what is the traction so far? So what you have done, maybe you did some customer interviews or things like that. After this, we move into the closing part of the pitch. So you should present the team that is working on the idea. You should include the ask, or basically what is it that you're looking for? Maybe you look for advice, for capital. And purely hygienic thing, the summary slide. So your contacts and main information to help people reach out to you if they want to help, or if they have some resources available for you. Now, you may have noticed that some of the things are put in bold while others aren't. And this is because the parts that are in bold, I would highly recommend to just keep them where they are, while the parts that are not bolded, the business related things, you can play around and move these sections according to kind of your story and how you want to present your business idea. So feel free to be creative here and not necessarily following the typical template. Now, to make things a bit more exciting and to give you a feeling of what a pitch looks like, I wanted to show this video of City, one of our portfolio companies, when they have pitched their startup in February 2019, so 3 years ago, at TechChill conference in Riga. I think most of you know who City is by now, but back then they were just starting. They were a very small company. And I think that that's why it will be relatable. I don't want to give an example, of a like super fancy startup that has incredible results and experience, because this is not what we are talking about, right? I mean, I want to show an example of a person who's also a non-native English speaker, who is, struggling a bit when he needs to present because just he's a bit shy and is not as confident. So, I mean, it's an example that you can relate with probably, and that will help you understand what the pitches look like. So let me try to transition into YouTube, and let's watch the pitch.
One little question. Anyone here from Lithuania? So you must be cheering twice as loud for the next team, as it's City from Lithuania.
E-commerce giants Amazon and Alibaba completely changed the way we shop online. You can buy an item in one click and expect to get it the same day. And soon, it will be as fast as 1 hour. And all of that sounds great, right? However, not so for small and medium business owners, because 1 out of 4 customers abandon shopping cart if same-day delivery is not available. And these business owners are struggling to find a solution because traditional courier companies and postal services cannot yet match the speed due to bottlenecks in their infrastructure. Just look at the distribution centers. And to be honest with you, scale of the problem is massive. It's widespread all across Europe, as 80% of e-shops want to, but cannot offer same-day deliveries. But I have good news for you. We at City have found a scalable way how to crowdsource delivery fleets in every major European city. And the best part, we have technology for businesses of all sizes to use it and deliver packages in 42 minutes. Guys, just 42 minutes. That's faster than Amazon Prime can do right now. In return, these businesses are paying us per delivery fee or buying subscription packages to get volume discounts. And you know what? They are loving it. We are growing by 30% in monthly recurring revenue for 4 months in a row and just closed January with almost 6K in monthly recurring revenue. And if you look at our delivery numbers, last month on average we did 40 deliveries a day and reached 1,200 deliveries a month. And we are not stopping here. On Monday, we are launching our operations in Tallinn, and next we are moving to Riga, after which we'll go to Poland, a country with 8 cities, over 300,000 people in population. And just look at our client pipeline. We have e-commerce companies like Telia, we have food delivery companies like Wolt, we have grocery companies like Barbora, and surprise, surprise, even traditional courier companies like DPD wants to use Zity City for same-day deliveries. And we have a team of logistics geeks. We are trusted by startup wise guys and an investor from Uber and Instacart. And now it's your chance to join. We are raising 250K to reach over 51,000 in monthly recurring revenue over the next 18 months. Thank you. I'm Laimonas, CEO and co-founder of Zity City.
I hope you enjoyed the pitch. And we will be looking at it today during my presentation. So we will be coming back to Zity City's pitch, and I'll use it as an example when presenting some of the things that are effective. Now, you might want to think, okay, so what was good about this presentation? But basically, it's clarity. The pitch is very simple. It includes only key information. It's not overburdened with data. And the information that is in the slides supports the things that Laimonas is saying. So, you know, he is using the slides as a way to make the pitch more effective. Now, also the way he presents, you know, he's very energetic, very optimistic, very excited about the company. And this is something that is translated emotionally, I think, to the audience. So it's a good pitch. It's a nice one. And I will use it as an example further on. So let's begin and let's take a look at all of the parts of the pitch. So typically you begin with a title slide and a hook. Once you start presenting, you know, this is just pure hygiene. It always helps to begin with an introduction. So you could say, hey, my name is Andra. I am from Startup Wise Guys, and we are an early stage startup investor and accelerator. So basically just tell in a couple of sentences who you are and what is it that you have come up with during this weekend, because this will help the audience to put some context and understand better what you will be talking about. Now, the next thing that you should do is to try and hook the listener in the first 15 seconds of your presentation. It's so easy to lose the attention of your audience, especially right now when we're pitching online and, you know, people can easily just start texting or their focus drifts away. So it's important that you really hook them in so that they would be excited and interested to hear the whole pitch. You can do this in a couple of ways. You can begin with some context, you know, to tell what's happening in the industry, in the market, in the world, what has changed, and why it is important for your idea. You can also ask a question, you know, a rhetorical question to involve the audience. You could ask, you know, have you ever thought about this and that? Have you ever experienced this and this problem? So basically you engage the audience. You can also do a controversial statement. You could say, I don't know, the marketing industry is broken, you know, the data industry is broken, something that would make your audience kind of wake up and want to listen to you. What you can also do is you can share your vision. Maybe how do you see the market, the industry evolve, and how the world will change and how you want to jump into this. Or you can tell a story, and this can be a personal story, or maybe the story of a customer, or a story of a person who will be using your product or service. So if you remember, in his pitch, Laimonas was saying, e-commerce giants like Amazon and Alibaba have completely changed the way we shop online. And basically here, he is establishing some context. So he's saying, you know, what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the e-commerce industry, and he's setting the tone, you know, for the rest of the presentation. So we already know that we will be talking about e-commerce, shopping, and the new trends that are out there. After you kind of warm up yourself and the audience, you can move into the problem part. And this is probably one of the most important parts of your pitch, because you should pitch the problem and not the solution. So clearly, this will be very closely related to the hacks that you are solving, right? And the topics that have been raised for you in this hackathon. So, but you might want to expand on them and go into something a bit more specific than the topic itself, right? You should explain, so what is the problem that you want to solve, really? Who has the problem? So, you know, who will be your customer? Also, why the problem matters, you know, maybe the size, like how many people it affects, how much does it cost to people or companies? So to make it a bit more specific. And then you can also tell if this is a new problem or an old problem that other companies tried to solve before, but they couldn't. But now you will be the one that will do that. So once again, going back to Zitty, you know, Laimonas was saying that 1 out of 4 customers abandon a shopping cart if same-day delivery is not available. And then he goes on to say that 80% of e-shops in Europe cannot offer same-day delivery. So immediately, you know, just from these 2 sentences, we understand that the scale of the problem is huge. You have 80% of e-shops who are losing 25% of their customers every day just because they cannot offer same-day delivery like, you know, the e-commerce giants are doing. So, you know, in a very simple way, Laimonas helps to understand why a solution like Zitty is needed, because a problem of this scale clearly needs to be solved. So when you are presenting the problem, try to tell the story of your customer. If you can, you know, tell a real story, tell something that is really happening out there. Let the jury and the investors feel the pain of the problem, and you can help them to feel the pain by proving, you know, that the problem is big, it's pervasive, by using data to quantify it, and if possible, also to translate it into monetary terms, because, you know, this always helps to understand the scale of the problem. So after you have presented the problem that you are trying to solve, this is the part where you transition into the solution or your product to be. And typically, when presenting the solution, you should introduce it as a remedy for the pain points that you have identified before. So you should start by explaining, what is the product? Is it some sort of software? Is it an app? Is it maybe a hardware solution? But make sure that you actually explain what the product is before moving into explaining what the product does. So once you explain what it is, you can start talking about how it helps customers to solve the problem. So what makes your product valuable? You know, what is the value proposition that you're trying to offer to your future clients? Now, you can also mention what is the secret sauce. You know, maybe you're using some specific technologies. I don't know, if you're building something related to data, you know, maybe you'll be using some machine learning algorithms or something like that. So you can mention some of the technologies, but don't go too deep into technical jargon. In the end of the day, you should just explain what the product is and what it does, and why is it better than some of the alternatives out there. If you have built a prototype during this weekend, or you're planning to build it, make sure to show a demo. This always helps for the jury and the investors to understand better what is it that you want to build, and also it will show, you know, how much progress you have done during the weekend. When it comes to Zitty, Laimonas presents the product in a very simple way, because he focuses on what the product does and how it helps customers. So he is saying that companies using City deliver packages in 42 minutes on average. So, you know, this is the end result. This is kind of how they solve the problem that the customers have. When it comes to the product presentation, he doesn't go into too much detail. He just says that, you know, there is an e-commerce app, an enterprise grade API, and for SMEs, they have a self-service platform. So it's quite simple, it's easy to understand, and most importantly, we know why the product could be valuable, because, you know, they are able to deliver packages so fast. So this, you know, just think about it when you will be preparing your solution slides as well. So my tip number 2 is to try and make this part very simple. Let your customers pitch for you. If you can, try to practice with someone who is not from your team, maybe like a relative or family member that you live with, and just like briefly present what is it that you're building and ask them to repeat it to you. You will realize how much is lost in translation. And actually how difficult sometimes it is to really understand what you're building and to repeat it in the same way. So try to crystallize the product and the solution presentation until someone can really repeat it to you. But I mean, it's just something fun that you can try out. Now, just try to be clear, try to be concise, avoid too much technical jargon. You can mention some of the technologies that you want to use, but don't go too deep into that. And also show the demo of the prototype of the product that you are building. This can be, you know, a video, it can be screenshots, wireframes, anything that basically will help understand what the product will look like. So after this, we move into the business part of your presentation. And here it could be that you will not have answers to all of the topics, and this is absolutely okay because you are just starting. So when you will be preparing the final pitch, think about which parts of the business side you want to talk about, where do you have enough information, and which parts maybe you want to skip because you're just not sure yet. It's absolutely okay to skip some of them. But let's take a look at what options do you have. So you should explain the market size and basically show the opportunity that you are after. For investors and for jury members, it might be important to see that you are building a product or a service for in a big enough market. So basically to grow into a global company. So when you are talking about the market, you can start by explaining, so who is the customer who will be basically paying for your product? Now, does the market exist, or are you creating a completely new category? Within this market, what is the segment, the customer segment, and the geography that you want to target? So these are some of the things that you should explain. And you can use the famous TAM, SAM, SOM model to explain your market. I will tell you a bit more about it on the slide. So this is something that a lot of the startups are using. Some people hate it, some people love it. Personally, I really like it because it helps to show the opportunity that you are after immediately, as well as the total available market. So the total opportunity that's out there for you as your company might be growing. So the total available market is, as it says, the total market demand for your product or service. So, you know, it can be all the demand globally for your particular product. The segmented addressable market is the particular segment that you plan to target with your products and services within your geographical reach. So here we are narrowing down a little bit. We are specifying the geographies. We're specifying the segments, which can be in types of companies, types of clients that you want to target. And the last thing is the share of the market, which is the proportion of SAM that you can capture, let's say, in the next 5 years or so. So it's the percentage that you just calculate from the SAM. Now, if you feel that this is maybe a bit too much and you don't have enough time to calculate this, what you can also do is try to estimate, so, okay, how many potential customers out there? And then multiply it by the price that you might be selling your product for. And this would, you know, lead to your addressable market of the two numbers. So this is also something that you can do. What I don't recommend doing is to take some data from reports, because this will never be very reflective of what your actual market size is and could be. So when you are presenting the market size, show a big but a realistic market. Try to be, specific and convincing, but also realistic. Give traceable numbers, something that you can actually explain, and present an opportunity that's exciting. So, you don't have to present a market that's in trillions, but also it should be at least in the hundreds of millions. After this, after we take a look at the whole market, then we kind of dig deeper and try to understand the competitive landscape. So your goal should be to prove that you will be better than your competitors. And of course, the best way to do is to first of all understand who the competitors are. So who are the other companies that are solving the same problem? So it doesn't mean that they produce the same product, but they solve the same problem. So for example, if I'm thirsty, I can choose between soft drinks, I can choose coffee, I can choose tea, right? It's not exactly the same product, but these are still my competitors. So think about the direct, indirect competitors and substitutes, and then try to explain how are you different and why are you better. And I think that one of the best ways to really present your competitive advantage is to use this typical XY diagram, where you choose a couple of dimensions that help you to show your strategic differentiation. So you don't go into the feature level where you compare, maybe with what type of features your product has versus the competitors, but here you think more strategically. So you think, how does my positioning in the market differ from the competition? And this is like a very old slide that you might have seen before. This is the first pitch of Airbnb. And back then they were positioning themselves as a solution that is affordable and based on online transactions. So this pitch was built maybe 10 years ago already. But if we think about Airbnb today, probably they're still positioned as the same solution, right? That's affordable and online based. So that's the power of highlighting your strategic competitive advantage, is that it doesn't change over time so much and helps you to really show, okay, so what is the area of the market where you want to be. So here, basically, just show that you are better. Know your competitors, differentiate at the strategic level and not at features, and don't be afraid to hide your imperfections. You're just starting. This is something new that you are building. So naturally, you might not be much better in some particular areas, but you can grow into becoming good there. So it's okay not to be perfect. After we present the competition, we can explain also what is our business model, or how are you planning to monetize on your idea. And this is important because we are talking about building businesses here, right? So in the end of the day, you can be self-sustainable if you can monetize on your product or service. So just explain what is the business model. So who will be charged for what product or service? What is the revenue model? Where the revenue will be coming from. What is your pricing strategy? If you have thought about this already, you can also include that. And where your income streams might be coming from. So, you might have a subscription model, you might have a licensing fee, an installation fee. So these are some of the things that you can think about. If you remember the pitch of City, so Limonas was just saying that they charge their clients per delivery, or they can offer bulk packages, so subscriptions for a certain number of deliveries per month. So very simple, right? And we don't even care about the specific numbers so much, because what is important is to understand the logic, and the numbers or the exact pricing is not that relevant here. So when you will be presenting your business model, just let the audience do the simple maths, explain the basic logic, show the key numbers. If you want, you can give some financial estimates, but I think that you might be a bit too early for that. And just don't focus too much on different pricing and features. Just explain the basic mechanics of your business model. After this, you can move on and try to explain, so what is your go-to-market strategy, or how do you plan to take the idea and the prototype that you have built during the weekend further? So what are some of the next steps that you should be doing to make your idea, a business? And here you should just explain, okay, so how will you maybe enter the market? Maybe you already thought which markets you want to sell in, what is the timeline, how can you reach your first customers, maybe what are some of the channels or tactics that you're planning to use. So when it comes to City, of course, they already had a working product, they already had paying customers. And so naturally, Laimonas was mostly telling about the different cities that he planned to enter and what will be the impact in terms of the monthly recurring revenue once those new cities or countries are entered. So this is, like a helicopter perspective, but you can also be a bit more specific, and you could just say, okay, so, in Q2, we are planning to work on the prototype, do additional customer interviews, launch maybe a beta version of the product. And then, in Q3, you might start selling. So, it's kind of just your plan. The go-to-market is your plan, and what is it that you want to do further on. And here, what is important is that, of course, if you want to present it, you just need to have a strategy. So you cannot, improvise too much here. So try to explain your reasoning, maybe give some proof of why you have chosen the specific plan, present the markets, customers, or segments that you're after. And if you can, also quantify the outcomes. So maybe what do you expect to generate in terms of revenue, or how many users you hope to have at a certain point in time. And then we move into one of the last parts of the business side, which is the traction. And here we are talking about what you as a startup to be have done so far to prove that there is a demand for your product or service. And when it comes to startups, of course, they can present, if they already have customers, if they are already generating revenues, and how fast they are growing. But when it comes to you, you can basically just explain what type of data have you collected to prove that your idea is needed in the market. Maybe you have done some desk research. Maybe you have done some customer interviews. Maybe you have seen this happen in your daily job, right? So there are many different things that you can utilize to prove that this is needed, there's a demand for it, and hey, here is some data to show it. When it comes to startups, this is kind of, traction is building the story of their momentum. So they're showing, how fast they are growing. And of course, the most significant metric to prove that is profit and revenue. But there are also other things, and some of these will be applicable for you. So for example, engagement, maybe partnerships. Maybe you have already found a partner for bringing your product to the market. Maybe you have some traffic. Maybe you have launched some ads to check, what could be the interest from the potential users. So anything, again, anything to prove that the demand is there. If you remember Laimonas' presentation, he was showing the monthly recurring revenue and how fast they were growing. So he was using the particular revenue metrics, but he was also showing other things that are not, as data driven. Maybe they're a bit soft. So for example, he was saying that even DPD is using them, and here they're courier logistics centers. So this is what it looks like to actually be delivering the products. He is also saying that, hey, here are some of the clients that we are already onboarding, and some of the clients that we plan to start working with. And you can also do this. You could indicate the type of companies that you think you will be working on in the future. And maybe, with some of them, you already have talked about potentially using the solution. So here, try and prove that there is demand and that you can grow fast. And you can do this by choosing the right metric, the right timing, by showing your potential or existing users and customers, and also showing your customer pipeline to kind of show, what you will be after. So this is it. The business part is finished. And as I mentioned before, for that one, you can really think what is it that you want to present and what's the order in which you want to include the topics in your pitch. But now, as we are wrapping up the pitch, you should finish. One of the things that you should finish with is the presentation of the team. And of course, when you're presenting the team, you should show that you are the best team for this company and for the startup. You should begin by explaining who are the core team members and what experience do you have. Also, how this experience is complementary between the team members. If you have worked before in another hackathon maybe or somewhere else, you can also highlight the past success that you have achieved. And if you already have some advisors or mentors, you can also mention them, but then make sure to explain why do they matter. If you remember the presentation of City, this was their team slide. So it was not, the typical team slide where you have the images of people in bubbles, then their name, surname, and the role in the company, but rather a picture of people just being together, being united, having the same mission and the same vision of, changing the transportation of for e-commerce businesses. So, of course, for you, it might be challenging to take a group picture right now that everyone is working remotely, I assume. But if you want, you can do that. You can do something a bit more original, show the team, show your passion, and show that you are excited about this. So, yeah, when you are presenting the team, just show that you are a good team. You can present the brands where you have to work with, just put the logos of the companies. You can talk about your past success. Maybe some of you have already built a startup or done something that's relevant for this, for your idea. Show, the knowledge, the expertise, the passion that you have. And if you can, make it personal and engaging, because at the end of the day, the team is one of the most important things in a startup. So after this, we're moving into one of the last topics, which is the ask. And this basically just means, what is it that you're looking for? What type of help do you need to keep on moving further and to develop this idea into a company? And usually every startup, they need something. It can be capital, it can be industry contacts, clients, maybe mentors, advisors, or team members, just anything that, is the most pressing for you right now to keep on moving forward. So just choose one of these things and present it in the ask slide. Typically startups are looking for capital, so no surprise that Laimonas was also asking for investment, but there's something specific about the way that he was asking for it. So he was saying that they need 250K in order to reach 50K MRR in 18 months. So what is he doing? He is asking for capital, and he is showing what the capital will enable the company to do. And this is something that we always advise our startups when they are asking for investment, to show where the investment will help to take you. And it doesn't have to be necessarily expressed in terms of revenue, but maybe you could say that you need, the initial capital to have a working prototype or to have an MVP and test it out with the first 100 users or something like that. So if you will be asking for capital, make sure that it is specific. So tell the audience how much money do you need, what you will accomplish with that money, and what are some of the milestones that you plan to reach. So you can use this as a sort of template. And of course, last but not least, pure hygiene. You should also have an ending slide in your presentation. So, sometimes people forget it, and this is why I have included this, because this is just so important. You have spent some time, developing this idea, preparing the presentation. You will be showing it to the jury, to the whole community that's watching this. And that's why it would be smart to include your contacts so that people could reach out in case, they want to help and want to support you further. So if you take a look at ZTC's presentation, here are some of the things that were included. The logo of the company, a slogan, the contacts, and also the website. So depending on what of these things you will already have, you can include them as the ending slide of your presentation. Also keep in mind that this is something that might be on the screen while you will be doing the Q&A session. So, makes sense to do something a bit funky, maybe, as Laimonas has done. Good. So that was a lot of me talking and going through the different parts of the pitch and explaining what should be included there and how you can make it effective and what really works. All of this is built on the experience of working with our portfolio companies. So I hope that you will also find some of these things useful. Now, before we finish off, I also want to share a couple of presentation tips with you that could help you to present in an effective way and grab the attention of the audience. So to begin with, let's look at some of the key rules of a stage pitch, what you should do. So try to tell a story and engage people emotionally. This will help you to convince them and to tell your idea in a more compelling way. Be passionate about your startup. You should be the main ambassador of your idea. You should be the one who is the most excited about it. So please, and try to translate this. Also, keep your pitch simple. Avoid technical jargon, avoid going into too many details because you will have very little time. So try to be simple and make the pitch easy to understand. I would also recommend to use a lot of visuals. It will help you to save time and will help you to explain your business idea in a more kind of clear way. Now, also, you might be running out of time, so it might make sense to think ahead. If you will not manage to fit into the 3 minutes, what are some of the slides that you can skip, and what are some of the slides that are very important for you to present? And of course, try to really practice before doing the final pitch. If you could practice at least a couple of times, that would be great. Or you can even do some peer review. So, do the pitch to your team members and try to work together on developing a pitch that you will feel confident and comfortable with. Now, some of the things that you shouldn't do, try not to add too much text because people will not have time to read the slides. Don't add too many slides as well because you basically will not have time to cover all of them. Again, very hygienic thing, but don't use different formatting. There are so many nice templates out there. Just pick one, use the same font, the size, and the coloring. This will make you look much more professional. And don't come unprepared. Really try to practice at least once before doing the final pitch, because you will have a very limited amount of time and you need to think carefully what is it that you want to say. So yeah, a lot of people say practice makes perfect. I just think that practice makes permanent. So if you can practice your pitch, if you can dedicate time to develop it, you will just feel so much more confident when you have to present tomorrow during the final closing event, and you will have just better chances of making sure that the audience understands what is it that you want to build. So thank you for listening to me. I wish you good luck with the final presentations, and I hope that now we can transition into some of the questions if we have any. And again, just wanted to remind you that if you need any help, please feel free to reach out on email or LinkedIn. I will be more than happy to support you on developing your ideas further. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Andra. I think if we would have a full audience of people, now you would hear the applauses. In fact, we don't have questions because I think that teams listen your presentation, and as I said previously, it was very practical, and I think all the insights you provided from your personal experience will work in their presentations as well. And as you know, our broadcast this presentation was broadcasted on YouTube, so it will stay there. So the teams will be able to watch it again. And as Andra said, she giving you a chance to meet her personally, virtually, and ask questions. So do not hesitate and write to Andra. Andra, I don't know if you will share your email with our Zoom participants, or will you share your LinkedIn? But Andra gave you this permission, so don't miss a chance. Thank you, Andra, for your presentation. Thank you for your time you give to us. And I hope to see you in the near future in other activities.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. And once again, kudos to everyone for organizing this and for participating in the hackathon. I think it's very important, and